Welcome. This is a review of an interview that we did recently with conservatives. After the midterm elections were finished, we started trying to get the message out that the votes exist now with 27 states who hate California values, that we could actually be voted out of America. Going by what Erwin Chemerinsky, the top constitutional scholar of California, said, that a simple majority vote could qualify to remove California from America, given that it was a simple majority vote that made California part of America. And certainly, when reflecting upon the only Supreme Court case related to secession, Texas versus White, and the operative phrase, consent of the states. We've said, look, if 25 states agree that we can go, that should qualify as consent of the states, which has never actually been defined by the Supreme Court. It's a plausible definition. We now have 27 states who are effectively totally conservative controlled and massively out of line with California values, and who California has already said, we look down upon you and ban travel to you, which is a good way of insulting them. 27 states are candidates to vote California off the island. We have said here that we are going to be dedicated the next 2 years to getting this message out across America. This is our very first attempt. We had a conversation with conservatives in New Hampshire and around America to let them know you can vote us out. We had a little bit of a debate, but I think we handled it pretty well. You might enjoy that. Please take a look. The full video is in the description if you'd like to watch the whole thing. And of course, we do not share values. Let me type that in. Of course, we don't share values with the conservatives. We pointed that out. Okay. We're talking with them to get the message because we need the votes. Of course, we don't share their values. We're not there to have a good time. We might be cordial. We might laugh. That's because we want to build colleagues up, because we need the votes. And if you're, as we've always said, if you're not going for the votes, then you must be for violent secession. Because if you're not attempting to do it through a legal process defined in America, then how exactly are you attempting to secede? Must be through a non-legal process, which means violence. So we don't share values with them, but we do talk with them because this is the way out. So let's do a present screen. And I also have this up on my phone. I'm going to play the audio so the audio comes in nice and clean. Make sure that's showing. This is the episode of Rebel Civics. Marcus Ruiz Evans, president of Calexit, Stephen Axelman, and Keith talk about independence. Keith is a big conservative. He doesn't even like the word conservatives. A lot of conservatives don't like that word. So basically, I end up saying someone against California values. By California standards, these people are conservatives. They don't consider themselves that, but whatever. So here you go. I'll play the show now till about 2508. So the main interesting part of what we said in the debate that we had about the legality of it is from 1308 to 2508. I'm going to say something. Keith's going to push back, and then I'm going to come back with my point and sink it down. So you'll watch the whole thing. This is what we do when we go meet conservatives. We're friends, but we stick to the facts that we know and how we plan to get legal secession done. So let me play it for you. Here we go.
Move on. Well, first, it's great to see you, Alu. So proud you're becoming a dad. Rabbi, always a pleasure. And you know, yes, California's here. We're the liberals at the table. And usually these national discussions, that puts us a little bit out. But I wanted to make sure to make a point that we work very hard to try to talk to conservatives, Republicans, whatever you want to call it, non-California flaming liberals, I guess is the right way to say it. And appreciate you having us on the show. It's very important to us. We're trying to get the message out now that you guys can vote California out. You actually have the number of votes to do that. What I'm talking about is you have about 27 states where there's basically a Republican trifecta. They may call them a divided government, like Arizona. Arizona because the governor won, but the governor won by 0.1% or 1%. And then the House and the Senate at the state level is 2/3 Republican. We don't really consider that divided. We consider that a hardcore red state where a Dem basically eked out a win at the governor level. And they're going to be so weak that they really can't push against the proclivities of the rest of the state. If you won at 51%, you're not going to go challenge 2/3 of your legislature to go do something radical. You don't have backing and you'll get voted out. So 27 states like that. And 25 of those states, or 24, already have a travel ban from California, meaning California's looked at that state and said, you don't support our California values, we look down upon you, and now we're going to have our legislature condemn you for what you did and say that you are, all of our state officials are banned from traveling to you. It doesn't stop people, but it's really a big proclamation in California going, you don't support California values, so we look down on you. So that's about 27 states who California has basically insulted directly and who basically have a red majority. The reason I bring that up is that, to get to your question, Erwin Chemerinsky is a constitutional scholar here in California. He founded the UCLA Law School, and I think the UC Irvine or maybe Berkeley. So he founded 2 UC law schools, and he basically said there's one Supreme Court case on secession ever. It's called Texas versus White. Came after the Civil War, which means it's legal precedent, not the Civil War, because that's the way legal precedent works. You go off the latest one. So Texas versus White was decided afterwards. It said you can secede, quotes, with consent of the states. Consent of the states was never defined. Erwin Chemerinsky, a top constitutional scholar, said it could be a simple majority vote in Congress. It could be a simple 51% vote of the states, because that's what it took to get California in. So that might be all it takes to leave using the only Supreme Court case that recognizes secession and says you can leave with consent. That's how we argue you can't secede. Now, we got this idea from Texas. Texas doesn't really use this. A lot of the other more conservative movements don't really mention Texas versus White because they like to go with the originalism idea that the states had this innate independence and that they can leave on their own. I'm not saying there's not an argument for that at all. I'm just saying here in California, we couldn't really get that airlifted. People in California are very litigious. They want to see a clear legal path. So not saying that there isn't a right for states to leave, but we're going with the states can leave if they get consent.
So I want to, I guess, push back or just make a couple comments there. So
Yeah,
one is a opinion majority or dissenting of the Supreme Court is not a legal precedent. So no, this is a civic show. So I'm going to stop you if you call it that. Now, what the court says is interesting to consider. I often find that dissenting opinions are more valuable than the majority, but not always. So on that particular one, it was written by a chief justice appointed by Lincoln. So, of course, there's a mainstream interpretation that states can't leave. Like Justice might have got impeached at that time. Like, you had to go with the Lincoln. Otherwise, they would have had to point out that the war for Southern independence was a totally illegitimate war of the northern U.S., the United States, attacking the Confederate States of America, some other country, and annexing all these states by force, by killing more people than all the other wars in the U.S. combined, which includes my state of Florida. So anyway, that's just an opinion. I have an opinion too. It doesn't actually matter because we're talking about the principle here, not the opinion of judges appointed by Lincoln just after the war.
I would push back on that just because we operate under a legal mechanism of stare decisis, not common law, which means we operate under there were laws and cases decided before. That's the American system.
My point is that the American legal system Supreme Court opinions are opinions. They're not precedents. They're not law. It is true in court cases. If you go to a federal court, it's useful. It can be useful in federal court to argue previous court opinion. But
Yeah.
I prefer to go with this, which is the Constitution. Like, this is the highest law.
That's fair. I would just like to. Okay.
So anyway, yeah. Okay. So we both comment on that. I've actually forgotten.
Well, but
I had another comment, but as far as legally, I think the point of this section, what I wanted to get across, is that there's both a principle, it's an ethical, moral principle of self-governance, that people have the right to determine their own form of government. And then secondly, Alu wants to say, then secondly, the Constitution does not ban a state, as Alu pointed out in Article 10, in Section 10 of Article 1. Like, it's not banned, therefore a state can do it. That's how the Constitution works. The Constitution is a limited list of powers delegated from a higher authority, the states, to the general government. And that authority can be taken away anytime the state wants. So go ahead, Alu. You want to say something?
Yeah, what Marcus said is that, practically speaking, people throughout the United States, and more importantly, the people with guns, the enforcers, the government, do consider Supreme Court stare decisis to be the law of the land. You can call them judicial activists or judicial super legislators, whatever you want. But the fact is, practically speaking, I tend to agree a little more with him that the Supreme Court saying something is kind of the hard word of law set in stone tablets from the gods. The other thing that he reminded me of is that, I think one of you mentioned, Marcus or Keith, that it took 51% to get them into the union, so 51% should be required to get them out. I would say even less. When you look at a union, again, think of a relationship. My wife and I, to get into a relationship and get married, required two. So bi-party consent, bilateral. But to leave here in the civilized universe of humanity only requires one. If she wants to leave, she could leave, and everyone recognizes legally, practically, morally, religiously, she can leave on her own unilaterally. We have unilateral no-fault divorce in the United States. We don't force her. Again, and I have this article pulled up. I just shared in the chat here that the number one legislator in Hampshire, who was the most vocal against independence, who coincidentally happened to deny my debate proposal against him like 6 times. He doesn't want to debate me, but he was the biggest legislator. He lost in the primary anyway. He wasn't that good, but he was the most vocal anti-independence person, Brody DeShays. He said, well, everyone had to consent to join, therefore everyone has to consent to leave the union. And I'm like, wow, I hope that you never get a girlfriend or wife, because if that's what you believe, that they can't leave unless you also allow them to leave, like no unilateral leaving a relationship, that's really creepy and scary and illegal, and obviously it violates the non-aggression principle. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, it takes 2 to join a union, but it only takes 1 to leave. That's how I would say most civilized humans in this world for the last few hundred years would think of a relationship.
And Stephen?
Yeah, I just want to make 2 quick points. One, half jokingly, the Texas versus White says a state can leave with permission of the other states. Unfortunately, it doesn't say we can kick you out. So I think it would be really interesting if we could get 27 red states to vote to kick California out. That may have a chance. Second thing I want to always emphasize is the reason I believe the various movements meet together is specifically not to agree with each other. If we agreed with each other, we wouldn't be planning a national divorce. Specifically, it's because we don't agree with each other. So every time I disagree with Marcus, that makes me happy, because that's why we want to get a divorce.
Absolutely.
Every time I do agree with him, it makes me happy because it'll make it easier to get a divorce.
Absolutely. I understand that it's controversial to go with Texas versus White. A lot of the conservatives, Republicans, whatever you want to call it, don't really like it. They like going with the 10th Amendment, and that states have the original ability to leave. I have backed that up many times in debates by pointing out that the states exist not because of the Constitution, not because of the Declaration of Independence, but because of a document we never talk about called the Treaty of Paris. So that's the actual document that made America. It's where they were recognized by other countries. And in that, they list 13 independent nations with capital S. So that legal document recognized 13 separate countries. Secondly, you can go to 1812, with New Hampshire having a convention with the British to secede and rejoin them. We know that in 1812, the Founding Fathers were still alive. No one said what New Hampshire was doing was illegal. So if it was legal, how come the people who wrote the Constitution didn't say so at the time? But for us, our argument is just that in the Constitution, it says all legal decisions are decided by one group, Supreme Court. The American legal system is based upon stare decisis, meaning you have to reference things that came before. There is only one case on secession, and there's only one comment, period. And it says you can leave with consent. It also says it by the guy who was appointed by Lincoln, and it also backs up a speech that Lincoln gave. Lincoln set the same legal precedent in one of his early speeches that if the states had asked, they could have left. So we have both the president and the Supreme Court justice who are backing that up. And whether they have to listen to that or not, it's something that it's basically the only reference. So if we're going to go like, is this a legal interpretation? The Supreme Court's going to have to look at this case, and they're going to have to go, well, at this time, some of the best minds, according to America, said that you could do it. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
So let me show you another bit. Yeah, I made sure to cover the web page and how to find us. So we talked about the book that started the whole movement, and then I showed them the Yes California YouTube page where they could find more videos of us, and then I also showed them the Yes California website where they could learn all about us. So we are getting the YouTube page, our information, and our website out to conservatives and the message, and we're starting to do that. And so this was our first attempt to do that and get that out, and we're very proud. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed that. And that was really just to let you know. You can watch the full video if you want, but I really wanted you to see somewhat of the way that we dialogue with conservatives and how we're able to be cordial and friendly, but push back with the facts that we think are important and make sure to get our point across. Let me see. Yes. Hey, I'm willing to have the website be upgraded. No problem at all. I could give you the keys if you want. Really appreciate it. And I've been using your covers, brother. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching that. I hope you found it informative. We expect to have many more videos where we are reaching out to conservatives to let them know you can literally vote California off the island. And I think you saw how we did it the first time. If you believe in the message, please help get it across to 27 other states. Our future is literally dependent upon it.